Hi, this is Jim Janossy, and here's a preview for Chapter 19 in the Story of Art. This is one of my favorite chapters, and it introduces an era which is one of my favorites called the Baroque. In the Baroque era, Baroque meaning strange, it was a name applied to it by people who came later. In the Baroque era, we see a definite change in art from an attempt to either copy or compete with the Renaissance to something quite different. The hallmarks of the Baroque era are theatricality and the combination of Greek and Roman forms in ways that had never been done before. So what you're going to see here is, first of all, some church architecture that includes features that never existed before, called volutes, that join various portions of the structure, and the doubling of columns, and the use of decoration called medallions, and various kind of roofs in combination, and lifted from Greek temples and Greek architecture, but used in ways that the Greeks never used them. We're also going to see the development of two distinctly different schools of art. One following the precepts of Annibale Carracci, who thought that pure beauty meant ancient forms and very fine brushwork and light handled in a way that it always looked as if it had been painted in a studio. Even if it were an outdoor scene, it looks like the light is very controlled and the shadows are very precise. As opposed to that, the school that's associated with Caravaggio, an artist who was very flamboyant and made very heavy use of light perspective, lights and darks, very dramatic paintings, but paintings that showed things as they were, very natural, and in many cases his art was criticized because when he was commissioned to paint art representing holy figures like the apostles, he painted them as very common men in ragged clothes with wrinkles on their brow and sweat and not very fancy sandals. The idealized way to picture apostles and other holy figures was in a very refined way that fit in with Carracci's concepts. And that was by and large what was accepted as classical art, the real art with a capital A. Eventually, after a period of hundreds of years, classical art got to be thought of as kind of stale. It developed into a number of other genres, historical painting and documentary painting, for example. By the 1800s, people started to get bored with it, and as artists became more and more rebellious, eventually a number of artists in the 19th century broke away from that tradition and actually gained a following. And it wasn't until the 1860s and 1870s that the first of those renegade movements acquired a name, the Impressionists, and actually launched forth on the era that led into modern art. But right now, we're in the Baroque. And in the Baroque, art in Catholic areas is being used to embellish churches even more than before. The Catholic Counter-Reformation went totally in the other direction from the Protestants. The Protestants simplified churches, did away with art in the churches. The Catholic Church endorsed it even more heavily. And we'll see some of the gaudiest and the fanciest, the most gilded, and the most theatrical church edifices in this era.